Motobu Choki was widely acknowledged as being the guy when it came to the practical use of karate kata. Famed for his success in challenge matches whereby he'd engage in no holds barred, no rules combat, he had a fierce reputation as a street fighter. And one thing that stands out, which is peculiar to Motobu, is his unique way of hitting the Makiwara. So karate has a lot of dogma attached to it. There are certain things that creep into practice over the years which lean more towards the world of aesthetics than they do to practicality. Things like always keeping your fingers together, things like always standing straight, never leaning, things like keeping your elbows in, things like keeping your shoulders down. All these things you've probably been told many times, and whilst they might be good in the beginner stages to build some good fundamentals, there are times at which we can bend these rules a little bit, certainly in terms of practical application. Now when we look at Motobu, when you look at the photographs of him, what you'll notice is his Makiwara is set a lot higher than other people. So whereas people strike in Makiwara and they keep their shoulder down, so the advice is usually that as you punch, elbow in, shoulder down, right? When you look at Motobu striking the Makiwara, what you notice is his shoulder is up by his chin. His shoulder is not depressed, how you are told to do in karate, with a nice strong hikite and a nice strong position and holding this for the camera. What you'll notice with Motobu is he's somewhere up here, which anyone looking at the photo would probably say he's wrong. If Motobu was around today and he put that picture of himself on Facebook, there would be 1,000 comments underneath saying, get your shoulder down. Motobu would just punch him, all right? When we look at why Motobu was doing this, generally speaking, most of the punches in Okinawan karate are done to the body, certainly in Goju-ryu at least. If we're talking in terms of a traditional punch, the only time in Goju-ryu kata, generally speaking, we hit to the head is with a uraken or with a tetsui or maybe with a shuto to the neck or something like that. Teisho in particular is done to the head, but very rarely do you see punches done to the head height in Goju-ryu. Motobu though, Motobu was a street fighter. Motobu was knocking people out. Motobu went and had a challenge match against a boxer. Motobu was very aware of the effectiveness of punching someone on the chin. So when you look at Motobu hitting a Makiwara, he's up here. His hands higher, his shoulders higher. This is an important and distinct difference from what everyone else was doing at that time and further down the line. Because what Motobu knew is that as we are hitting, we are also vulnerable to being hit. Now if I'm hitting here, say I'm hitting head height and my shoulders down, this all looks very nice. I've got this massive void above my shoulder. Anyone who's done any amount of boxing or Muay Thai or MMA knows that when you're hitting the head, this defense is here. Anytime I'm punching with a cross or an overhand or whatever it might be, this shoulder is up protecting my chin. Anytime I'm jabbing, again, this shoulder comes up to protect my chin because I'm always aware of something coming over the top of that shoulder and clocking me while I'm trying to deliver my strikes. So, generally speaking, we are looking at the probability of being struck while we're striking. This is what Sanchin is supposed to teach you. When we are practicing our Sanchin, when we are coming here and we are locking in this position here, it's not to add power to the punch. It's not to, ground the punch or anything like that. It's to brace yourself against the inevitable strike that's going to come back at you while you are extended. So it's not like we are now digging that in and rotating through or anything like that. No, you're tightening the wrist because chances are you're going to eat a shot as well. Now, when we look at Kung Fu, when we look at the Okinawan arts in general, there was a massive preference to body striking. This is true across all the kata. But now when we start looking at street fighting, it is inherent, it is in our DNA, it is primed within human beings to punch people in the face. This was frowned upon in Okinawan culture. To be punching people in the face was seen as an act of disrespect. It was seen as uncouth. It was seen as something below the status of a bushi or a man of martial arts. You shouldn't be punching people in the face. You should be using open hand strikes and things like that. It's things that are a little bit more cultured, some things that are a little bit more civilized. We don't go around punching people in the face, but Motobu did. And Motobu also knew that people were likely to try and punch him in the face as well, which is why he's getting these shoulders high. Now, the other thing, when we're looking at striking to the head, if I strike to the head but keep my shoulder down, when I strike to the head but keep my shoulder down, the knuckles that hit the target first are these bottom ones here. Okay, anyone who's tried to punch someone in the face in the street after having done thousands upon thousands of reps on a Makiwara every day, as you were told to, will know that when you go to punch someone in the street, you catch teeth in those knuckles. Ask me how I know. What you need to do when you punch people in the face, you don't throw it from here. Even if you're doing a preemptive shot, you do not throw it from here and keep your shoulder down. This preemptive shot should come from up above and come more horizontal this way. In this way, I'm still able to hit with the correct knuckles that you're supposed to have been conditioning on the Makiwara, rather than these ones, because you're coming on an upward trajectory. The punches come across more horizontal orientation this way, so that as I punch, I have connection here. Again, my shoulder has to come high in order to do this. My shoulder doesn't stay down, because again, it changes the orientation of the fist, changes these knuckles. And then my line of force is then more glancing, because it's going with the movement of the head. I want these strikes to whip that head horizontally in order to get the knockout effect. I want that horizontal trajectory on an angle so that you get this snap, you get this rotation, rather than a drive that way, which usually sends people with a backward step and they'll ride that punch a little bit. You'll find you've got to do subsequent follow-up shots. Better to get it done in one if you can, right? So again, just some thoughts, because I saw the picture of Motobu, and you know, on the surface it looks kind of sloppy, and I just wondered, it got me thinking, if that was on the internet today, the poor guy would get so much hate beneath that photograph. But it turns out Motobu knew what he was doing. Hey, maybe he knew something the others didn't. Maybe because he was one who actually went out and used his stuff, he figured out how to make it work. If you want to figure out how to make your stuff work, there's a link below. Click on the Patreon. We do a deep dive on all aspects of Goju Kata, application, paired practices, solo forms, how to strengthen each position, how to do a deep dive, strip away the dogma, and really understand what it is we're trying to get from these weird little practices we call kata. See you next time.